So welcome to our second to last installation of this year's webinar series, Growing Pains, How to Alleviate Pains with Your Growing Business. And today we're talking about beyond the logo. What does rebranding really mean in the larger scope of your brand assets? So if we haven't met, I'm Nicole Morton. I'm the Director of Marketing Operations. I'm joined by my colleague, Abby Radawan, who is our Digital Content Manager. So let's go ahead and dive in this webinar. So by the time we're done, you will have an understanding of what is brand messaging. We've covered this in the last couple of webinars, so we're just going to briefly touch on it. We're going to talk about emotional connection in your brand messaging, why it's important, brand voice and why it's significant, and then we'll give you some action steps that you can take for your brand messaging. So again, brand messaging, why does it matter? It's a big deal. It's the actual language of your brand. And we've discussed in previous webinars how it communicates your core values, your unique solutions, whether that is your product or your service, and why it is the best and only choice for your target audience versus your competition, and the problems that your prospect will be able to solve by using your unique solution. Mm-hmm. And again, we've talked over and over again about how consistent messaging across all your platforms builds trust and reliability. And we know that people like to do business with people that they know, like, and trust. So Abby, how is your brand an experience?
Yeah, so the first thing we're going to dive into is kind of why you want your branding to be. You want it to be more than just your color palette and your logo, and you also want it to be more than just your messaging. So today we're talking about three aspects of your brand that are often overlooked. And we see this a lot when we work with our clients, especially clients who engage us for a research and strategy project. And those three aspects are your messaging, your brand voice, and your emotional connection. So what we're looking at here is kind of the amalgamation of the words you say, that's your messaging, your brand voice, which is how you say those words, and then the emotional connection that you're making with your audience, and how those three things combine to create just that itty bitty little sweet spot you see in the middle.
That's right. It's so tiny, but it's so important.
So important. All right. So getting into emotional connection, this is the thing that's going to turn people who engage with you and your business once into your ride or die fans. It's easy to believe that your customers are making decisions based on logic, which isn't untrue, but studies have found that consumers primarily make buying decisions based off of their emotions. So when you kind of foster those positive experiences with your customers, that'll help you improve your brand loyalty and retention.
Exactly right. People buy with emotion and then go back later and justify their purchase with logic. But you've got to get that. You've got to get under their skin first.
Justify their purchase with logic. Are you talking girl math?
I am indeed.
So one of the biggest tools we can use, or the easiest tools we can use to create that emotional connection, is storytelling. So this comes in a lot of forms. It can be the story that you tell about your business and why it exists in the world, and like why you felt compelled or your founder felt compelled to start your business. It can be storytelling around your values. A company that does this really well is Patagonia. If you've ever seen any Patagonia, anything really, one of their core values is they're making outdoor gear and they want to actually care for the outdoors that they're making the gear for. So they have had a lot of campaigns in the past that are really aimed towards meeting their consumers in the emotional issues that they care about, like climate change and like just general conservation. Namely, they had a campaign, this was a while back, but it was a Black Friday campaign where all of their ads said, don't buy this jacket, with a picture of a Patagonia jacket, encouraging users to reduce, reuse, recycle what they already had or repair.
Mhm.
That being said, that type of messaging is really, really strong in creating people that will choose your brand over others, and in Patagonia's case, choosing their brand over others that are cheaper.
Mhm. And we're seeing a lot more marketing analytics that is saying that for the mid to late millennial generation and into Generation Z, the emotional connection is their primary buying motivation, regardless of price. You know, they're not sensitive to price, they're not sensitive to brand loyalty, but if you can connect with them, they'll champion your brand and just generate a ton of advocacy.
Mm-hmm. All right, the next thing we can do to help create and foster that emotional connection is personalization. This comes in many forms. You can see with the little graphic that we have here, the easiest is probably email. But there are lots of other ways you can do this. If you use call tracking, and when a customer calls your business, you can pick up the phone and say, hey, Nicole, how's it going? Before they have to introduce themselves. That goes a long way. You can also do personalized social media DM automations. So the way that I've seen it done a lot is there will be a post or a reel, and people will say, like, comment for the link, and then you comment, or like for the link, you like, and then the automation will immediately send you a direct message that says, hey, Abby, here's the link for this top, or whatever it was that I wanted the link to buy. Speaking to people with their name, other than just marketing, but even just in personal communication, makes people feel really valued. It makes them feel remembered. And that's a good way to make them feel like not only do they have a personal connection with your brand, but the brand has a personal connection with them.
That's right. You're taking the community scale down to a single person's viewpoint. And some other ways that you can do personalization at scale, like Abby said, with automation tools, but it could be as simple as having suggestions on your website. So if there is a purchase that they've made, you can suggest other things that would accompany that purchase. So if it's an item of clothing, it could be an accessory. If it's a gift, it could be, wrapping services. It could be as simple as having an abandoned cart sequence. So if your target is shopping and then has to step away, you can come back to them and remind them that their cart is waiting for them, and make suggestions for them to make that that purchase decision a lot smoother. So speaking of community.
Exactly. So what we want to do, as we're creating these connections, we're building them along the way while we're building our client relationships, is we want to create a sense of community. And like Nicole said, we want to create kind of that community of one with your brand and your each and every customer. But we also want to find ways that we can create communities among all of those customers. Maybe we're grouping them by like interests or like products or services. But we want to create communities where people can speak to each other about their experience with our business, and then ultimately go forward and speak that to people who are not yet associated with the business. Having that sense of community really makes people feel like the brand is working harder for them than other brands would be.
And that could be as simple as allowing them to post content on your site, or you repost content, user-generated content in your socials. Just little ways that you can have them advocate on your behalf and have it feel natural. And we've talked in a number of webinars this year and previously that social proof is probably the most powerful consideration you can have in order to foster that buying decision.
Right. It's one thing for me to say Keystone Click. For you to hear someone that doesn't work here say Keystone Click makes a huge difference.
That's exactly right. This one's my favorite.
Yeah, this is a really great one. kind of like along the funnel as we're working and building those relationships, small gestures like thank yous, exclusive offers, I would say also birthday discounts, and VIP discounts really help your consumers feel like they matter to your business, whether your business is teeny tiny or really, really big. When I get my free drink from Starbucks on my birthday, I feel like I matter to Starbucks. Do I? Certainly not. There is no way that they care about Abby Rad, but it makes me feel that way anyways. And guess what? I go get my drink and then maybe I try something new and then I want it a week later again. And that's kind of how those things work. Those offers and discounts kind of come back in the long run, right? You're playing the long game, not the short game. To really make people feel like they as people, but also their dollars really matter to your business.
That's exactly right. And ironically, this is one space where small businesses and indie businesses have a distinct advantage, because I'll tell you, if I'm buying something on, say Etsy or an independent artist's website, and they throw in a sticker with my with my invoice, I'm over the moon. I ordered stickers from an artist who's based out of the Philippines, and her thank you card is, a printed thank you card, but it was handwritten with my name on it. Thanks, Nicole. I could not stop talking about it.
Yeah.
These tiny little sweeteners go a long, long way.
Yeah.
Here's my favorite part of the discussion is that your messaging is great, and part of reaching that emotional connection is utilizing your brand voice. And every brand has its own voice, and it's the intersection of the tone that you're speaking with, the style with which you speak, and the character that infuses that emotion. It's your unique vocal fingerprint. And the more that you can identify and lean into that, the more your brand can be viewed as authentic. And we know, again, authenticity creates trust. So why would you bother figuring out your brand voice? Well, one, it's going to make your messaging easier because it's going to be consistent across all of your channels. It communicates your personality, which creates the emotional connection. It makes your brand identifiable, because at the end of the day, your offer, either your product or service, may be to a degree a commodity. So it's going to make the brand experience the decision between you and your competition. And overall, it's going to guide your company culture. It allows people to understand how the brand is to be represented in public, in print, online. It makes everything consistent. So when we think about brand voice, you intrinsically already know this as a consumer, regardless of what your business is. As a consumer, you're already subject to understanding brand voice. So we pulled together some kind of extreme examples of what brand voice looks like in action. So you'll never not understand that Nike has a brand voice that is heroic, it's confident, it's inspiring, it's very distinctive. And when you think of it against some of the multi-million-dollar shoe brands in their competition, you can tell a Nike ad from an Adidas ad, from a Puma ad. You can tell the difference. Old Spice, they're absolutely bizarre, and their audience loves it. Their advertising is funky. Their product packaging is wild. I don't know who comes up with their scent names, but I would really like to be their friend. And they lean into that kind of hyper masculine conversation with their audience in print and online and in their advertising. So it's weird. It's irreverent. Coca-Cola, you can distinguish Coca-Cola from Pepsi, from whatever, Monster, from any kind of beverage brand. They have a legacy of a brand voice that's positive, it's friendly, it's uplifting. Their tagline, have a Coke and a smile. That's infused in all of their messaging. Tiffany Blue is a really distinctive brand icon, but slap Tiffany Blue on an ad that's crazy as Old Spice, and you will absolutely get emotional whiplash. Tiffany is elegant, it's refined, it's classic, it's beautiful. Lego, even their brand iconography is fun, it's friendly, it's kid-like, and we understand that that's for kids of all ages. You know, the bricks are for people from 8 to 88 and beyond. So they're also helpful. They're playful. So very distinct brand voices. And if Lego were to do a Nike commercial where there was running and sweating, you would be wondering what on earth was going on with their advertising. So this is just kind of extreme examples of how brand voice for these multi-million-dollar companies, even though they're huge, you feel a connection to them because you understand their personality. Oh, Abby.
Yeah,
This
so
is so
I
good.
had to on this slide, you guys, I included one of my favorite Nike ads. Like Nicole was saying, like Nike, you can tell their ads from Adidas or Puma or Under Armour, and it's because they're inspiring and they're wanting you to have an experience with a brand rather than just buy a pair of shoes, and that's why they have the large majority of the market. But
That's
this one's a
exactly right.
fave of mine if you want to play, Nicole.
I do. I just want to make sure that the sound comes through.
It worked when I tested it before, but it's not working now.
Oh, I very much want this to work.
I know. Try again really quick.
We'll fix this in post.
We will. I think you might have to, it might be your share screen settings. That's what I had to change earlier.
Let's see.
Please stand by.
Please, indeed, please stand by. Or I can just turn my volume up like crazy cakes. Let's see if that works.
I don't know.
If we show emotion, we're called dramatic. If we want to play against men, we're nuts. And if we dream of equal opportunity, delusional. When we stand for something, we're unhinged. Super, it's gonna need to calm down. When we're too good, there's something wrong with us. And if we get angry, we're hysterical or rational or just being crazy. But a woman running a marathon was crazy. Official strike to the lower of the floors. A woman boxing was crazy. A woman dunking, crazy. Coaching an NBA team, crazy. A woman competing in a hijab, changing her sport, landing a double court 1080, or winning 23 Grand Slams, having a baby, and then coming back for more. Crazy, 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 and crazy. So if they want to call you crazy, fine. Show them what crazy can do.
No one else could pull
bearing
that
with
off.
me.
Oh my gosh, goosebumps. So let's see, how are you going to figure out your brand voice and pull it forward? So the first thing we would recommend is putting together a brand voice guide to help keep your communication consistent. So you're going to figure out what are the specific traits of your brand voice, what's language that's exclusive to your brand, what is language that you absolutely will not use in your brand, and set those limits on, set boundaries around the language that you're using, and figure out what your communication style is. Is it casual? Is it authoritative? Is it knowledgeable? Is there a lot of jargon infused into it? And that's okay, because that's what your audience is expecting of you. So how do you go about doing this? First, you're going to identify your audience. And we've talked about that in previous webinars. So if you want to go back and review some of our tips and tricks on trying to figure out how to identify your target audience and what the metrics are around that, you can review those. Do a content audit. Take a review of all of your content. Figure out from your analytics what's working And you can kind of reverse engineer why. You're looking for similarities, you're looking for continuity. And once you have that information, get everybody together to brainstorm. This is a global choice. So everyone in the company needs to have input on what that brand voice is going to become and evolve into. And then great way to start is to figure out 3 descriptors of what your brand voice either is or should be. So, back in the slide where we had some brand voice in action, Abby and I had identified, 3 descriptive terms for each brand voice. So what are some action steps you can start today, Abby Rad?
Yeah, here are just a few things. So the first thing you're going to want to do before you even get to developing your brand voice guide is to look at what you already have. There's no reason to reinvent the wheel, and having a chance to look at that history is going to inform how you move forward. So when you look at that history, maybe you're like, actually, what we're talking about and the way we're talking about it is right on. We just need to give it some words that make maybe new team members, make it easier for new team members to understand and nail right away as well. Maybe you look at that history of messaging and you're like, ooh, this isn't quite it, and this isn't how I want to come across. Then you need to make a shift, right? You also want to identify inconsistencies along the way. So if sometimes something is really, really great, you're talking about the right things, you're doing it in the right way, other times it's not, that's a good indication that there are holes in you, at the very least, the understanding of your brand voice and your messaging that you want to fill. Second, identify areas for personalization. These are really, really easy things that you can probably add on to what you're already doing. If you're sending emails, personalize them. If you're sending like SMS messages, personalize them. Super easy, done and dusted. And then finally, where you can kind of add a little bit of that emotional connection that's going to take your customers to brand advocates. Next, you want to identify your brand voice. After you've looked at where you've been, you got to decide where you're going, right? Whether that's different or if it's the same, that's up to you. And then finally, build your brand guide. We are talking about this next month, not next week. I almost said that. Next month in December, we are talking about building your brand guidelines as our webinar topic. And we're going to talk about all the things that your brand guidelines should absolutely have in order for new team members to be able to understand your branding, understand your company, and nail it right away, and how that really gives you a space to be more creative rather than being bogged down by literally the whole wide world of colors and fonts and decisions you could be making for your branding day in and day out.
For sure. All right, so we want to open up the floor to questions. If we have anything in the Q&A.
I will look. I do not see any in the Q&A, but I will check the chat.
Okay.
All right. The first one that I'm seeing, Nicole, is, let me read it word for word so I get it right. As a small business with limited resources, how can I ensure my brand messaging remains consistent across different channels without a large marketing team? If you don't mind it, I will take this one.
Yeah,
I think honestly, having not having a really big marketing team makes it easier, right? Because if it's just you, then you just have to keep yourself honest. That being said, there are a few things you can do. The first thing is you want to make sure that you have that clear and concise messaging guide that will really help, even if you're just keeping yourself honest. It'll keep you from getting a little loosey-goosey down the road. Nicole and I use the Keystone Click brand voice guide. to keep each other honest all the time.
Mhm.
I tend to be a little bit more buttoned down. Nicole tends to be a little bit more buttoned up. And when we can keep each other honest with the brand voice guide, we get that perfect, like 1 or 2 buttons undone voice that we're going for. Make sure that when you create that guide, it's including the most important things of your brand. So that's your core values, your mission statement, any key messaging points that you want to talk about that could be kind of topic buckets, or stats that are really, really important to your business, things like that. Even if you don't have a team, having that reference point, again, helps you all stay honest, helps you all communicate effectively to your consumers so that nobody is getting really different communication from your CEO down to your intern. Again, I think this is a great question because you're asking the right things, which is about consistency. Consistency is the most important.
Absolutely.
All right, Nicole, there is one more question that I think would be great for you to answer.
Ooh.
How do I find and refine my brand voice if I'm just starting out and still trying to figure out what makes my brand unique?
Ooh, that's good. Okay. So if you're just starting out, the most important thing is to understand who you're talking to. So that audience identification, understanding what their buying motivations are, what their needs and wants and aspirations, that's key. That's absolutely foundational to the entire process. So you're going to start that first. Then maybe start thinking about what your brand is like as a person. So if your brand as a human is speaking to that audience that you've now identified, what does that conversation look like? What does it sound like? What are the topics? And again, when we talk about picking, 3 things that identify it, you can start with, friendly, knowledgeable, and warm. That's a great start. And as you, the more that you communicate and the more reception that you get from your audience, because you're going to get instant feedback based on whether, how they're responding. And you're able to slowly refine and become more confident in presenting that outward. You may want to look at either competitors and figure out how you are different from them, not just in terms of their product offering and their, you may share similar audiences, but then you can make your brand distinctive with your voice. You can look at brands that you find aspirational. So do you find that your natural brand voice is, a little bit more refined and, like Abby said, buttoned up like a J. Peterman, or is a little bit eccentric like a Trader Joe's? Or is it, really knowledgeable, like maybe JP Morgan, or is it, really friendly and helpful like a Pampers? So, in that matrix, you'll find the sweet spot between, those 3 points that we're looking for: your words, your tone, and your character. So once you find that intersection, that's, exactly where you can start. And this is an evolution. So this is not a one and done process. As your business grows, as your audience matures, as your product offerings change, these will change naturally with you. But I'm so excited for you to just get the process started, because even starting that, you're light years ahead of your competition who haven't taken this into consideration.
Absolutely.
For sure.
I will say, upon your answer, I'm upset that we didn't talk about Trader Joe's earlier and didn't think of it earlier, but it's okay.
Please, if you don't already get their catalogs in the mail, they are such a treat. They are such a treat. I highly recommend. So again, Abby and I are so excited to have you join us for the day. And, because we know your time is valuable, we would love to have you join us for a consultation call with Abby or myself or any of our account managers. So, to kind of help you evaluate your brand presence, and whether you're just getting started or you're ready to pivot. We would love to sit down with you. So there's a little short code here that you can grab, or our QR code you can go ahead and scan, and it'll take you right to our contact page. Like Abby said, we're going to be here on December 14th talking about brand guides. So we hope to see you then. So in conclusion, again, you can reach out to Abby or myself at our email addresses that are here. Lori's always available for a chat, or you can find us on socials. So thank you so much for joining us, and we wish you continued success in your growing business, and also have a lovely holiday.
Yeah. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks so much.